Hey y'all, my name's Taylor. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. So today's video I'm going to be talking about the books I read in December as well as the books I hope to read this January. And I have 9 books total that I completed, and technically one of them I finished in January, but I'm just going to roll it up into this set of books because I think almost all of them are Christmas. So that fits right in. So the first one is A Christmas at Caron by Timur Alexander, and I gave it 3.5 stars. It is a Christmas Christian historical fiction novella, and it's set during the Civil War time period, and it is about a young widow. She has a little boy, and she is about to give birth. She's very much pregnant, and she found out that her husband was killed in the war, and so she is left to provide for her little family on her own. So she's trying to find a way to make money, and she ends up finding work at the big house in their area, and also a soldier is sent to this house because there is a big event being put on to kind of raise funds for the war effort. So he's sent to kind of oversee everything and boost morale, that type of thing. So like I said, I gave this 3.5 stars. I really did enjoy it. It was very Christmassy. I love the historical atmosphere of the house, and I really enjoyed the relationship between the mother and the son, the little boy. That was really, really sweet to see, and how much she was willing to sacrifice for her children. The only thing I was a little hesitant about was how quickly the romance moved. It is a novella, so I can kind of get it, but it was pretty quick. I think she found out about her husband dying like a month or 2 ago. But, you know, things moved a little bit faster back then, especially if you were basically destitute and needed to support yourself with young children. So I kind of get it, but it did move a bit quickly for me. But that was really about it. It is a really good example of Christian writing. There's a lot of faith in it. And I am my interest is somewhat piqued for the rest of the series. This is like the very first novel, I think, of before 2 full-length novels in a Civil War time period series. And it's not something I usually gravitate towards, that time period, but her writing was really good, so I might continue on. I'm not sure yet, but it's on my TBR in case I run across it. So that was the first one. I also read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I can't remember if I've ever read this before, since I've seen the movie. I maybe just be remembering the movie, but I love this story. I gave it 5 stars. It is such a picture of, I don't know, just a magical world, cozy feeling. December is a great time to read this story. There's lots of snow, and it's the perfect book to curl up under a blanket or in front of the fire. It has that cozy feel to it a lot. You know, I don't know. It's just, C.S. Lewis really created such a fantastical world. It's so interesting, and it's so timeless. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook by Michael York, and that was a really good performance. So I highly recommend it if you are interested. I also read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I listened to the audiobook by Patrick Stewart, and it was really good as well. But I had to read this book. I hadn't read it in a couple years, but I tried to at least put it on my to be read for December, because I feel like it's like your quintessential Christmas story. And yeah, it really is. It has kind of the mysterious, spooky elements, like what's going to happen, you know, kind of a little touch of darkness, but really like the message behind it is really, really great for Christmas time, of you know, keeping your fellow man in your heart and doing the best you can for them. Kind of almost how Christ would take care of everybody. And so Scrooge learns some very hard lessons and changes his ways. And there were slightly touches of Christianity in it, probably because of the time period it was written in. But I would have liked to have seen like elements of like what the true meaning of Christmas really is, more incorporated into it. But it is a timeless classic, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Next is An Ivy Hill Christmas by Julie Clausen, and this is my first book that I read by Julie Clausen, and it is part of a novella series. The Ivy Hill set series is historical fiction, Christian fiction, and I'd heard about it as that you can basically read it as a standalone. You don't have to read the whole series, and I would say that's pretty accurate. You can tell that there was a previous love story, but they're married already, so there is that. But I think you can. I was fine not reading it. So this one is kind of a prodigal. I can never say that word right. Prodigal son retelling a little bit. It has elements of that and a lot of influence of Pride and Prejudice. Let me tell you, if you like Pride and Prejudice and you need a Christmas story, I would highly recommend this one, because there were same exact phrases. There were some instances, story plot lines that were very similar, including a refusal of marriage and a angsty ballroom scene. So it was really fun to read. But this man, his name's Richard. He I'm kind of doing this backward, telling you the synopsis and after my thoughts, but whatever. So Richard, he is he's kind of been living the high life in London, and so his mother is basically like, you're being cut off, like we can't afford to support your lifestyle anymore. And so he comes back home reluctantly for Christmas, and he meets this young woman, and he has been very determined to never get married because he doesn't want to be tied down or disappointed by a wife. He's scared to share his heart with somebody, so he ends up meeting this woman, and she thaws his heart and kind of helps him change and be more of a decent human being. But it's really a sweet story. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't a huge fan of Richard's character. He still was kind of pretty arrogant and full of himself throughout the whole thing. There wasn't as much character growth as I would have liked. He did change a lot, that is true, but the reason behind it, I would have liked to see more of an influence of Christianity, like faith being the reason why he changed, and there wasn't as much of that, so I would have liked to see that more. Next, I read A Quote for Christmas by Melody Carlson, and this one is a Christmas time contemporary Christian fiction novella. That was a mouthful. But I usually try and stay away from contemporary. I was kind of hesitant about reading this one, but I'd heard such great things about it last year. Everybody seemed to talk about it. And so I put it on my list, and I got to it this year, and I'm really glad I did, because it was such a heartwarming story. It's about Vera, and she is an older woman, and she moved to this new town to kind of help support her family, but their circumstances changed, and so they moved away again. So Vera is left in this brand new town, not knowing anybody, and she doesn't have anybody to celebrate Christmas with. And one day she gets a knock on her door, and there's this little girl who is asking for help because her mother is having a medical emergency, and there's nobody else to help them. And so Vera kind of gets roped into helping this family she has never met before, taking the mom to the hospital and taking care of the kids because there's nobody else around that can do it. And so the little girl, she notices a quilt on Vera's bed and is just enamored with it, and thinks that her mother would really like one for Christmas. And so she asked Vera to make one for her mother, a Christmas quilt. And Vera's like, there ain't no way I'm going to be able to make a Christmas quilt in time because it's only a couple of weeks till Christmas. And so they end up finding some people to help make this quilt, and there are a lot of unlikely friendships. It's just a really heartwarming story, and just a really nice example of the Christmas spirit, the Christmas feeling. I gave you all the cozies as well. And there is an element of romance in this story, and that's kind of what took away my enjoyment of it. It really could have done without it, in my opinion. I gave it overall a 3-star rating because the couple, they were kind of really awkward, and like I said, I could have done without it. It was just kind of strange to me. And there was a view about marriage in it that just seemed kind of more flippant to me. One of the characters in the couple, she is divorced, and so the way she talked about marriage, and it didn't seem very biblical to me, and it kind of bothered me a little bit. So there's that. But I would recommend it aside from that. The next book I read was To Crack a Soldier by Sarah Baron, and this is a retelling of The Nutcracker, and it's part of a multi-author series, The Shattered Tales. And they took an element of the original fairy tale and shattered it in some way and remade it into a unique story. There you can see, the foundation or the original story, but it's its own story now. And what's different about this one is that the human is who would have been the Nutcracker. So the man is the main character. His name is Alex, and I think his name's Alex. Yeah, Alexander. He is given a wooden doll, a ballerina, and so the ballerina comes to life, and he gets mistakenly transported to this world, so he's trying to get back, and along the way there is a budding romance, and I liked it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think Sarah Baron did such a great job with world building, and she incorporated music really well into this world. So when music is played, some sort of magic happens, and you can really feel the music happening. It was really, really interesting. And she incorporated food really well, like the main characters, in order for them to get Alexander back to the real world, I guess the human world. They have to visit each of the areas of fairy, and they're by the seasons, but each area has like their own food specialty. And so the little ballerina, she is definitely a foodie, and she's like, let's try all the things. You have to try it. It's so good. So you get like all the Christmas treats wrapped into the story too. The only thing that I didn't quite like was Alexander is very much a grump. This is a grumpy sunshine trope, and he was a little bit too much of a grump to me. I think he was too gruff, and maybe it was just too much of a opposite thing. She was way too happy and he was way too grumpy. I don't know what it was, but I didn't really feel their romance too terribly much. There were some really sweet moments, but I just wasn't blown away with their romance, and that was probably just a me thing. But it could have been too that it was a little fast. I mean, they're only in fairy for a little bit, so it happened really, really quick, but it was still really cute. And then we have the next one that I'm going to talk about. The last 3 of the month are the Once Upon a Dickens Christmas novella set. There's 3 in this set, and The first one is 12 Days at Bleakley Manor, and this is, I am told, I didn't know this until after the fact, but a mashup of Bleak House by Charles Dickens and Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And I would say, as someone who hasn't read either of those books and had no idea about their plot or anything, I read the book just fine. But if you have read them, you'll definitely see the correlations, I think. But it is about this man who is falsely accused. He's released from prison, and he is invited to Bleakley Manor. And if he stays all 12 days of Christmas, he will be pardoned from prison. If he does not, then he will be shot on sight for trying to escape prison. And then the other main character, I think her name was, what was her name? Clara. She is kind of left destitute because her family lost their fortune, and so she ends up being invited to this house. And if she stays, then she'll get a lot of money out of staying. And there are some other guests invited as well, so everybody has a reason to stay. And so who's going to get what they are promised? How can, all these characters stay? There can only be one winner type of thing. And then there is a romance between the two characters. It's a second chance romance, and I think it is done very, very well. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. And then the second novella is A Tale of Two Hearts, and it is about Mina. She is basically like a barmaid, and she's had this crush on Will for about a year, and so he's kind of oblivious to it, and he is needing to inherit from his uncle, but his uncle is wanting him to settle down before choosing who he will leave all of his stuff to, his estate. So Will is needing this money to help support his mother, so he asks Mina to pose as his wife, and so it is their love story and kind of some plot around deceiving the uncle and what happens from there. So I'm not a huge fan of deception stories or any kind of deception in any book, even if it is Christian fiction. Like, I can kind of see where their motivation was, like they had a good reason for doing it, but it's always like the whole time I'm thinking, honesty is always the best policy, and I already know where this is going to go. There's going to be a fallout. The uncle's going to get mad, So, yeah, the whole time I kind of just dread that happening. But it was pretty sweet. It gave you the Christmas feels. I think I rated it 3 stars, so it was pretty good. I think it's important for you to read this one because there is an element that kind of connects all the stories together. So I would recommend you read them all in order. The last one is the book that I finished in January, and that is The Old Lace Shop. And this one, I would say definitely would need to come with a trigger warning, because the main character, she was in an abusive marriage, and her husband died, and so there's a little bit of a description about how he abused her physically, and you can tell, even though this is the Dickens time period, Victorian era time period, you can tell she has some PTSD from it. So if that is a sensitive topic for you, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book because it does go in a little bit of detail, but it is a second chance romance as well, and it gave me North and South vibes. So if you love North and South, definitely try this book if you want a Christmas novella, because she is an heiress and she inherits a lace factory, and she falls back in love with uh, the factory owner. So he owns half and she owns half. So it's really, really sweet. I thought the romance was really good, and I really enjoyed it. So just picture North and South plus Christmas plus second chance romance. That is how I would describe that book in a nutshell. And I think I rated it 4 stars. So I really liked it. So that's all that I read in December. Editing Taylor here. So I had 2 DNFs for the month that I completely forgot to talk about, and I wanted to kind of explain why I DNF'd these 2 in case you had them on your radar, and maybe it might influence what you decide to do. So one of them, well, both of them are secular fiction. So I guess I learned my lesson this month that, secular fiction for me is just kind of a minefield, and most of the time I end up not liking it if I don't know for sure that it's completely clean. But the first one is a Home for Christmas by Courtney Cole, and this one had some cussing in the beginning, and I was like, okay, it's secular, I get it. I kept plowing through. And then there was some discussions about hookups and trying to seduce somebody, like a side character was seducing somebody, and it just didn't feel good to me. So I just stopped reading it, like maybe 5-10%, something like that. It was not far at all, and I was not committed to knowing the story. And then the second one was Christmas in the Scottish Highlands, and this one has such a cute cover, and I was really hopeful because in the kind of description blurb for it, it said for fans of Debbie Maccabee, I think. I thought that person was a clean fiction author, so I thought I would be safe. No, not so much. I think I got about 50% in, and there really wasn't much movement as far as the romance was going, and it was an enemies to lovers type of thing. And at 50%, there is a scene where the couple is under the mistletoe, and they're not even a couple. And so the girl is not trusting of the guy, and he's not trusting of her either, and she just doesn't know what to think of him, doesn't trust him. They haven't said I love you or anything, so it was purely their kiss was purely physical in nature. Like they might have the beginnings of romance going on, but it was purely physical and more lust based. And I don't mind kissing in books usually, as long as it doesn't get too descriptive or go too long. But when there's no romance in it and it's more sexual in nature, that is a problem for me. And it wasn't just a simple kiss. It was wandering hands and descriptions of what the wandering hands were doing, and it was a no for me. So I stopped reading that one. So just wanted to let y'all know about those things in case you wanted to. So back to the video. What I want to read in January, let's talk about that real quick. And so I have a few buddy reads this month. So I am going to be reading Hope Between the Pages by Pepper Basham with Tammy over at the Protagonist Pub. We're reading through the Fable app, which is new for both of us, so we're excited to see how that goes. But I believe this is a dual timeline story, with the historical one being around Biltmore. I don't need to know anything else. I love Biltmore. I've been there several times. I absolutely love that place. It's one of my favorite places ever. And so I'm excited to read that one. And then the second buddy read is with Lindsay Lemus, Holly over at A Lovely Day with Holly, and Chrissy from Chrissy's Purple Library. And we are continuing on with Tolkien, and we are reading The Fellowship of the Ring. And I hope to read, listen to the Andy Serkis version, so that is exciting. I also am going to participate in Tammy's from the Protagonist Pub, her book club. I couldn't think of the word for a second. She started one, and this is the first month of it, and she's doing it through the Fable app, and some of us have joined. So I will link it below in case you're interested. But we are reading Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green, and this one, it seems like there's two sisters, and it's set during the time of the Chicago fire, and during all the chaos of that happening, her father got accused of murdering someone. He is kind of, I think, suffering from PTSD, it sounds like, from being a prisoner of war. I think it's the Civil War. I think that's the right war. But he is committed to an asylum because he was accused of murder. So that is what we are reading. So I'm excited to be a part of a book club again. It's been a minute, so yay! I am also hoping to participate, like I said, in my 2023 goals videos. I am participating in JaneReads Christian Fiction Challenge. So January is to start a series. So Veiled in Smoke is the first one in a series, so that counts for that one. And then Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. January's, I'm going to go with the Doyle Tract, The Hounds of Baskervilles, read a book with a dog on the cover. So I'm going to try and read The Hound of the Baskervilles, which is, I feel like, almost cheating because it's the name of the prompt, but I've never read it, and I've been wanting to read Sherlock Holmes, a Sherlock Holmes book, for forever. So I'm going to take the opportunity and do it, and hopefully count that prompt. I'm also doing Oceana's Christian fiction Christian romance reading challenge, and I'm not sure which one I will count for this one. I have a couple other books that I'll talk about in a second, but I'll just kind of fit it into whatever prompt will work for that. I don't have any specific plans yet, just kind of depends on which book I get to, but I am going to count something towards it this month. And then Katie's read around the World-a-Thon packing list item on the cover. I'm going to count Veiled in Smoke. She has a very pretty pink dress on, and a dress is definitely something I would take with me on vacation. So I'm going to count that one. And let's see what else. I have an arc that I need to get to, and that is Ariadne and the Legend of the Fire Rose by Christy A. Cole, and she is on YouTube if her name sounds familiar to you. I will link her channel below, but she is a published author starting January 20th, I think is when the book comes out. So I'm hoping to finish it up before that date. I'm really going to try my best because it's taking me forever to read the book I'm reading now physically. Better Watch Out by Natalie Walters is a leftover from December, but I'm really enjoying it, so I should finish it pretty soon, and then I can pick up Christy's book and read it. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And for her, I have a couple of thrillers on this list. 26 Below by Kimberly Woodhouse. It's about a serial killer in Alaska. I'm very much a seasonal reader, so it had snow on the cover, kind of got the dark type gloomy feels of a thriller. Like, I think that's perfect for January. Cold Pursuit by Nancy Mell. This is, I think, about an FBI former agent who has a little bit of PTSD from almost dying in her job previously. So she and her ex-FBI partner are budding up to create a private investigation agency, and they are given a case to try and find this boy that has been missing for 4 years. So there's that one. And then Colleen Coble is coming out with a brand new book this month, Fragile Designs, And I'm very much interested because I really enjoyed her Annie Peterson series last year. And this one I think is about a woman, her husband was a police officer and he was killed, but was it really an accident? Was he murdered type of thing, I think. But mainly I'm just interested because I think it's a romantic suspense, and I really enjoyed Annie Peterson, so I'm hoping that this one is, if not as good as, better than Annie Peterson. So fingers crossed for that. And the last one that I am hopeful, probably won't get to all of these, but hopeful to get to is the next Narnia book, The Horse and His Boy. So that is what I'm reading. So let me know what y'all read for December. Have you read any of the books I talked about? Is there a book that I should prioritize for January? Let me know. As always, I love talking to y'all in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.